I was fired by text message while lying in a hospital bed, stitches still fresh from surgery, my phone vibrating against the thin white sheets as if it knew my life was about to fracture. The fluorescent lights hummed above me. My abdomen burned every time I breathed too deeply. And yet the pain that cut the deepest wasn't physical. It was the moment I read 62 characters that erased 9 years of my life. My name is Nicole Bennett, and that message was the first shot in a corporate war my CEO never saw coming. It was 6:34 a.m. at Presbyterian Hospital, Dallas. I was barely awake, still foggy from anesthesia after an emergency appendectomy the night before. My throat was dry. My body felt heavy, stitched together and unfamiliar. I reached for my phone expecting a message from my assistant or maybe a check-in from the team about the Henderson presentation scheduled for next week. Instead, the screen lit up with a name I hadn't expected to see that morning. Victor Hale, CEO of Westbrook Strategies. The man who'd recruited me personally 9 years earlier, promising partnership, growth, and loyalty. I hesitated before opening the message. Some instinct warned me. Then I tapped. Effective immediately, your employment with Westbrook Strategies is terminated. Your access has been revoked. Company property must be returned within 48 hours. HR will mail your final paycheck. No explanation. No call. No warning. Just a text message sent while I was unconscious on an operating table. I read it 3 times, waiting for my brain to reject it as a hallucination brought on by painkillers. My hands started shaking. I tried to open my email. Locked out. The company's CRM app flashed an error. Even my parking access was gone. Victor hadn't just fired me. He'd erased me while I was under anesthesia. 9 years. That's how long I'd given Westbrook. Senior Director of Client Development wasn't a title handed out lightly. I'd earned it through late nights, missed birthdays, canceled vacations, and deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I'd been the person clients called when things broke at midnight. The one who showed up when others sent emails. And now, none of it mattered. A voice drifted through the curtains separating the hospital beds. Calm. Male. Texas drawl softened by money and confidence. Rough morning? I swallowed. I'm fine, I said, though my voice cracked. No offense, he replied, but people who are fine don't look like they just watched their life implode. The curtain slid open before I could stop him. The man standing there was in his mid-50s, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, wearing the same humiliating hospital gown as me, though somehow he made it look intentional. And 4-line trailed from his arm. Something about his face felt familiar. Thomas Ellery, he said, extending his hand. And yes, that Ellery. My stomach dropped. Thomas Ellery. CEO of Ellery Capital. Westbrook's biggest competitor. The man Victor obsessed over in board meetings. And he just witnessed my professional execution. I didn't mean to listen, Thomas said, settling back against his pillows. But it's hard not to notice when someone gets kicked while they're down. Victor Hale's work, I'm guessing. I nodded. Words failed me. I've known Victor for over 20 years, he continued. Want to know the difference between us? I let out a bitter laugh. Your stock price? Thomas laughed too, genuine and unguarded. Besides that, I understand that companies aren't built on spreadsheets. They're built on people. And Victor just threw away one of his best. You don't even know who I am, I said quietly. Nicole Bennett, he replied without hesitation. You landed the Steinberg Group account. You personally salvaged the Patterson Industries renewal after their vendor meltdown. And Henderson's expansion? They only agreed to move forward because you promised to oversee it yourself. My head spun. How do you know all that? Because every time my team lost a deal, your name came up, he said. And because Victor is an idiot who just handed me a gift. My phone buzzed again. A message from my assistant. Former assistant, I realized. Security is packing your office. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Something inside me hardened. He's going to regret this, I said. Thomas smiled. Not cruel. Calculating. Yes, he said. He is. The next hour passed in strange companionship. Maybe it was the morphine. Maybe it was the shared vulnerability of hospital gowns. But I found myself talking to Thomas Ellery like he wasn't the enemy I'd been trained to fear. Kidney stones, he explained, gesturing to his third time this year. My wife says it's karma. Do you really believe in karma? I asked. I believe in recognizing opportunity, he said. And right now I'm looking at a senior executive who just became a free agent. He leaned forward slightly. Tell me, Nicole. Why did Victor fire you? The question landed hard. I hadn't even considered it. I don't know, I admitted. The text didn't say. Of course it didn't, Thomas said. That would require a reason. He paused. Westbrook's earnings call is in 2 weeks. Word is they're missing projections by double digits. The board's been pressuring Victor for months. I felt the pieces click. So I was the scapegoat. Exactly, he said. You run client development. When numbers dip, that's the head he cuts. But you're also a threat. Those clients? They're loyal to you, not the logo. The nurse came in. Thomas asked for a pen and paper. When she left, he slid the paper toward me. Vice President of Client Strategy. Ellery Capital. Salary 40% higher than my current one. Equity options after year 1. Full autonomy over strategic accounts. I stared at it. This is aggressive. Opportunistic, he agreed. But genuine. I've wanted you on my team for years. Victor just made it possible. My phone buzzed again. This time from a client. Then another. And another. Thomas noticed. They're already reaching out, aren't they? I nodded. Don't respond yet, he said. Let Victor think he's in control. Let him spin his story. When you're ready, you come to Ellery clean. No violations. No legal mess. The room felt smaller, charged with possibility and danger. I need time, I said. Of course, Thomas replied. But remember this. Victor thinks he cut off a liability. What he actually did was create a rival. The sun climbed higher over Dallas, casting harsh light through the hospital window. Somewhere downtown, Victor Hale was probably sitting in his corner office, confident, believing he'd eliminated a problem. He had no idea he'd just set everything in motion. And as my phone buzzed again with another client's name, I realized something that made my pulse race. Victor hadn't just fired me. He'd freed me. By noon, the morphine had begun to fade, and with the returning pain came clarity. I stared at the ceiling tiles of the hospital room, counting the tiny perforations, trying to understand how my life had detonated in less than 6 hours. Thomas Ellery had been wheeled out for tests, leaving me alone with the buzzing lights, the ache in my abdomen, and a phone that wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages stacked up fast. Former colleagues whispering shock. Clients asking careful questions. My mother somehow already knew and was offering to fly in from Phoenix. But what hurt the most was who didn't reach out. Not a single message from the leadership team. In corporate America, silence is contagious. And I had already been declared radioactive. I finally answered one call. Patricia Lawson, CEO of Patterson Industries. Nicole, she said without preamble, tell me this isn't true. I didn't soften it. I was terminated this morning. There was a pause, long enough to feel heavy. Then her voice dropped, cold and controlled. Victor fired you while you were in the hospital. By text. That son of a, she stopped herself. Listen to me carefully. Patterson Industries didn't stay with Westbrook because of Victor. We stayed because of you. Whatever you do next, I want to know. Are we clear? I closed my eyes. Crystal. When the call ended, something shifted. Shock gave way to something sharper. Focus. By the next morning, I was discharged. My neighbor dropped off a box of belongings security had handed her after clearing my office. 9 years reduced to a cardboard container. I set up my laptop at my kitchen table, moving carefully, stitches still tender, and began documenting everything. Not client data. I wasn't reckless. Just my own history. Every deal I'd led. Every crisis I'd resolved. Every time Victor had taken credit in the boardroom while I carried the weight. It was more than a record. It was proof. And as I typed, the messages kept coming. Jim Henderson. Marcus Steinberg. Each one saying the same thing in different words. This changes things. We need to talk. We're reviewing our contracts. That afternoon, Thomas Ellery called. You're handling this well, he said. Most people panic. I did panic, I replied. I just didn't let Victor see it. He laughed softly. Good. Because fear makes men like him sloppy. He gave me a name. Maria Rodriguez. Employment attorney. Before you decide anything, he said, talk to her. I did. Maria didn't waste time. Victor Hale made 3 mistakes, she said, flipping through my contract. Terminating you during medical leave. Doing it without cause. And assuming his non-compete would scare you into silence. She looked up. It won't. Texas law, she explained, wasn't kind to CEOs who thought cruelty equaled control. If clients reached out to me on their own, Victor couldn't stop them. If I accepted a role elsewhere without soliciting, his leverage evaporated. You have options, Maria said. And you have power. That night, I met Marcus Steinberg for dinner. He didn't bother with pleasantries. Victor called me, he said, cutting into his steak. Offered discounts, special treatment, everything he should have offered years ago. He looked at me directly. We declined. My throat tightened. Marcus, he raised a hand. Nicole, loyalty isn't contractual. It's personal. And Victor never understood that. When we stood to leave, he said one last thing. Wherever you land, that's where Steinberg Group will evaluate our future partnerships. That wasn't a promise. It was a declaration. By Friday morning, my decision was made. I called Thomas Ellery. I'm in, I said. On one condition. Name it. I don't burn bridges for revenge. I build something better. He smiled through the phone. That's exactly why I want you. The industry reacted instantly. Westbrook's board went into emergency session. Clients initiated reviews. Victor called me 14 times. I didn't answer once. By Monday morning, Ellery Capital's lobby felt like a coronation. Thomas met me personally, handed me the finalized contract, and led me to a corner office overlooking downtown Dallas. Welcome, he said, to the side that values people. Before noon, Jim Henderson signed. By mid-afternoon, Patterson Industries followed. By market close, Westbrook's stock dropped double digits. And by the time the sun set, Victor Hale was no longer CEO. The letter came that evening. From Westbrook's board. An apology. A request to discuss remediation. I didn't respond. Some bridges don't get rebuilt. They serve better as reminders. 3 months later, I stood in the same hospital wing where it had all begun, visiting Robert Kirkland, Westbrook's interim CEO. I should have stopped him sooner, he admitted. Victor thought fear was leadership. I nodded. Fear creates compliance. Respect creates loyalty. When I left, the irony wasn't lost on me. Westbrook was now hiring Ellery Capital as consultants. The empire that tried to erase me now needed my expertise to survive. Back at Ellery, champagne waited. Marcus Steinberg announced a 5-year, multi-billion-dollar partnership. The largest in company history. As applause filled the room, Thomas leaned toward me. The best part, he said quietly, is we did this the right way. He was right. No theft. No sabotage. Just consequences. That night, alone in my apartment, I replayed the message that started it all. 62 characters meant to end me. Instead, they freed me. Victor Hale believed power came from titles and control. He never understood the truth. Power comes from trust. And trust, once broken, doesn't bleed quietly. It collapses kingdoms. If you've ever been underestimated, discarded, or silenced by someone who thought you were replaceable, remember this. Your value doesn't disappear because someone fails to see it. Sometimes, the worst moment of your career is the exact moment you step into something greater. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Where are you listening from, and have you ever faced a moment that changed everything? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs the reminder that true success is built on relationships, not ego. Until next time, know your worth, protect your trust, and never let anyone convince you that loyalty only flows one way.